By remodeling the course and improving its reputation, we now have an approximate 3-year waiting list of people wanting to join. And a waiting list is the most valuable asset any club can have. The success exceeded all of our expectations to the point where we overhauled our bylaws to create national memberships and a program for young men under 40. These things all filled up rapidly. Our national program is now up to 95 people. We built overnight rooms in the clubhouse, and we are currently on some lists, 50 in the world and 36 in the United States. And so the results couldn't have been make me happier and more beneficial to the club. The club is on solid footing, and you couldn't have asked for more. Let's go back to the 90s when it was 35,000 in the mid-90s, and then we had that first tech boom. And in that period of time, it almost tripled. So going into the deliberations about the remodel, it was at 102, but after the dot-com bubble burst, we started losing members and we were reluctant to lower it. We had lots of people wanting to get out and few wanting to get in. After the remodel, as I said, we opened up in July of '08, just in time for that financial meltdown. So to kickstart things, we actually lowered it to 50. And then as the economy improved, and of course the interest grew, we kept advancing it to the point where I think it's now $130,000 or $40,000. The number of people waiting to get out approximately 2009 was 80. Since then, they have all been replaced. We have added those other categories I mentioned, so we've probably turned over 250 people. Our membership is 350 owners, a category for young men under 40, which is 30 people, and the national memberships, which is now 95.
Before we embarked on changes to the golf course, we did a careful assessment at the club about where we really stood as a club in the market and what had happened. And a lot of members of your clubs, or our club and other clubs, are business people, and so we put it in terms of our market cap. Our membership price had been $120,000 per member in 2007, 2008. By the time we embarked on our golf course project, only 6 years later, the membership price was under $25,000. So our market cap had dropped from 48 million to 12 million. So that compelled people to at least think seriously, what do we need to do to be competitive in the market and make sure the club really has sustainability. We reviewed all of these variables in terms of where the membership had been, the price, and what the prospects would be. And this is really the key determinant for a club, and this is what you can learn from other clubs. So a lot of these golf course debates come down to, well, I have an opinion, and you have a good opinion, and pretty soon we would say, well, listen, if we're just going to go with opinions, let's go with mine. But instead, let's go with the data. Let's go with the facts and the analytics. And these were the analytics from our club. So we went from this period where our membership price went down to under $25,000. We had 80 people that wanted to leave because they feared there would be assessments for the clubhouse and all these things that they just didn't want to pay for. We've had more than 200 members, that's half of our club, have stepped in and replaced the existing membership, many of whom wanted to leave in the first place. And we've got a waiting list that we didn't used to have. We used to have a waiting list of people trying to get out. Now we have a waiting list of people trying to join.
So anytime you undertake something as broad as this, where you're remodeling the course and basically taking out a play for a course of a year, there's a risk that you're going to have some attrition of membership, which we did. If you fast forward today, the club is thriving and I would suggest in a much better position than we were before. There are going to be some people that just don't want to live through the inconvenience of that. But what we find now is that the new members that are coming in, we've now got a product, and not just the golf course, it goes into the other amenities that we've offered, everything that came out of that master plan. Now we really have a really thriving membership, and we have a lot of new members. So yes, in the short term you might have a little attrition, but so far I think if you look at what we've actually achieved in terms of where our membership price has gone and the number of new members, it meets or exceeds what we would have hoped for before the starting the project.
There's an old saying that we've heard, I've heard it from my father about golf, is play the course as you find it, play the ball as you find it, leave the course better than you found it. So to me, what we did at Cal Club is leaving the course better than you found it writ large. What's happening today, obviously clubs are interested in improving their assets and renovating to the point where these architects are booked out to 2025. But the important thing is that I don't think people will vote against their own self-interest. So I think it's important to convince people this isn't their self-interest, to make the product better, to attract new people to take your place, but basically to leave it better than you found it. And these courses age, they're living organisms, and they need to be refurbished every once in a while. It's just a fact. And I just think most golfers don't appreciate that. They don't appreciate what the superintendent does. He's cultivating grass within 0.8 of an inch of death, and when the grass isn't perfect, everybody's complaining. So it's the nature of human beings, but golfers in particular. You have to constantly improve the asset and make it attractive to potential members, and knowing who you are. We're lucky because we had good bones, and now we've got a course that's regarded highly. But not every club's going to be like that, but they can serve their market. And you have to serve the market and put out the best product you can. It's very hard to get people to put their own self-interest on the side and say, this is for the future, this is for future generations. But to me, it's very important.
I think that from our group and heading into the renovation, I think one of the groups that was most concerned about the renovation was the group that only had, 1 to 10 years left of their golfing career, and we were going to take away the golf course for a year, and they were very upset about that. But I think that we as a community tried to stress that we know we have these issues, and we know we're very prideful of our club right now, but we also know that we want to create that legacy of the next 20 to 30 years worth of members. And I think that ultimately, when we work through the challenges of, hey, where am I going to play golf for the next year, I think that ultimately it made sense from a standpoint of this can be a club that you can be proud to tell your grandson or granddaughter about, and so on down the line.
When we look at the benefits of the remodel, it's really that we've positioned the club for future generations. When we look at the all-new 18 new USGA spec greens, we look at the all-new warm season turf, the new irrigation, the more playable course, I feel that we feel very confident that we have a course that is going to serve the club for decades into the future. And I think that's the most satisfying thing about it, is it wasn't a quick fix, but it's something that's really going to help the club succeed for long into the future, and this project should have a very long life.
One of the great experiences I had in my life in going and leading this project was to have the opportunity to meet with so many of the fabulous people that were members of our club. There were 5 or 10 people that really stood out for me. They were older, they had been around a long time, many were in their 70s, and they saw what we were trying to do to change this thing, not for us, but for the long-term interest, in the best long-term interest of the club. And they became our best salesmen of the club. These were guys, one guy 75 years old, could not really, because of his health, play golf anymore. And he would stand up and talk to his friends and say, it's not about you, it's about your children and your grandchildren. And that's our obligation to a club. So think that way. And not everybody did, but I will tell you, he had such credibility in several of these people, and that made all the difference in the world. And I think that is, I mean, if you're going to be a member of a club and you only look at it through your own limited perspective, hey, I only go out there once a month and all that, that's not really the right way to think about a club. You do have an obligation to think about it in the long term. People have asked me in retrospect, having been pretty hands-on involved in our project, what mistakes we made, and to kind of explain the circumstance. Because our club was not used to spending money, we made the mistake of saying, even without really getting formal bids, we said we can do this project for X number of $1 million. It turned out we did, and we executed it and delivered for the price that we said we would, but we had to leave out some things in the project. When you go through a golf course project, nothing is going to work out 100% like you think it will, and you won't satisfy 100% of the members. And one of the reasons is it's human nature.
I mean, first and foremost, I think anytime you're investing in the course, in the club, and specifically in the golf course, I think it's just going to do wonders for your community. I think that, COVID has taught us that the country club life is still mostly about golf. And so by investing in the golf course, I think you're investing in yourselves. I think golf in general is very hot. It's going to stay around. But again, I think that the most important part is the pride in where you work and the pride of where you're a member. And I think that you're going to continue to have deferred maintenance, whether it be bunkers, greens, all of these things are going to continue to be costs that you're going to incur. And I just think if you can do it under the purview of a great course architect like Jay and a great situation where you can take something that might be a negative like the driving range and turn it into a great positive, it's a huge win-win for the club.
In my opinion, you've hired a very good man to do this, and you're going to have your disagreements, but try not to be disagreeable. And at the end, you'll be glad you did it. That's about all I can tell you, because that's been my experience. We endured a lot of acrimony, more than I would have liked, and but we came through it, and nobody died, so.